Welcome to the Tampering Party. I'm Sam Ekstrom. Twitter is down.
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings calling in from parts unknown. Let's get ready to tamper.
Hey, this is Arif Hasan with the Wide Left Substack. I really resent all the comments saying I was asleep. I'm very much awake. Thank you.
You look it.
Yeah.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Arif Hasan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talks Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota Football Party. And it starts now.
What's up? Welcome into this giant edition of the Minnesota Football Party on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Tampering began 4 minutes ago. We will be with you for an hour plus, reacting live to all the latest Minnesota Vikings news. You met Luke Braun, Arif Hasan. Again, I'm Sam Ekstrom. Luke Inman out, parentheses, illness today. Unfortunate day. We'll be tracking our free agency bingo cards, which have been distributed, and we'll be competing throughout the month of March. We've got Aaron Jones coming back, Ryan Wright coming back, Aaron Rodgers has been linked to the Vikings, Jonathan Allen visiting the Vikings. All of that and live reactions. Even though we don't have Twitter, we will find a way to get you the latest news on today's Minnesota Football Party, which, by the way, is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when the first $5 bet wins. Let me first say that Twitter being down in this exact moment, which I think has already happened today. It happened earlier this morning. It's down again, is astonishingly unbelievable. Like that, amount.
It's very believable, but like I get what you mean.
It's almost too perfect. This is what we learned prior to X or Twitter going down again. Jonathan Allen is visiting the Vikings. I think that's worthy of one of these.
Yeah, play the sound. Macho Meach gets to live. I don't know if you saw his message earlier that he was dying and needed the sound in order to live, but you saved his life. For
the day is young.
I'm a big Jonathan Allen fan. I would compared to Grady Jarrett, for instance, I'm into it. 30 years old.
You would not have been into Grady Jarrett?
Would not have really been into Grady Jarrett as much.
I think it depends on the money, but I get what you mean.
I think the Vikings are going to be super comp pick conscious. I think that Jonathan Allen fits that bill. I think that they're not going to want to give all 4-year deals out. I think Jonathan Allen fits that bill. Feels like about a 2-year contract. I'd be into it. Now, Luke Braun, you were saying off air, this might be Jonathan Allen making the rounds, kind of going on the tour, see where he's wanted. And a lot of times these deals don't come to fruition until late summer, like you were saying.
He could be that kind of guy. Like that might be what happens with somebody like Grady Jarrett, right? Like these older guys that want to pick a good place. They want to, be somewhere where it's comfortable for the last parts of their career. They've made a lot of money. That's not as big of a priority to them. However, it has been reported by multiple people on the local beat that Jonathan Allen is specifically very interested in the Vikings. So it could also happen, later today. Who knows what's going to happen? It's tampering day. It's Christmas in March. Selection Sunday is next week. It's the greatest month of the year.
Yeah. Thank you, John Rothstein. So I would say the Jonathan Allen stuff actually very much reminds me of like way back, like 10 years ago, when people were talking about free agency and a free agent would sign with not the Vikings after the Vikings either demonstrated interest or fans assumed there was interest. And they'd be like, they chose to play in Florida for like income tax reasons, which may or may not have been true, but like fans like to say that, like, the Vikings have this huge, disadvantage because of it. And now it feels like we get to say that about the Vikings. Obviously, there's still high income tax in Minnesota, but rather, I think the NFLPA survey has done wonders for the Vikings in their ability to move up the ladder in terms of like where free agents want to land. Now, mind you, a lot of these free agents are being pursued by 8-9 different teams. Your odds of landing one of these really high value free agents, less than 20% very often. Just, from a basic, like if you could just pick a team at randoms. And so hitting above, let's say 10% on high value free agents is doing really well. Seems like the Vikings are probably doing that on the ones that they're genuinely pursuing. And I think like when you hear stuff like Jonathan Allen has been interested in the Vikings for a long time, there's a lot of reasons that could be the case, and probably there's a multitude of reasons, right? One of those reasons, of course, could be that the Brian Flores defense is really fascinating and interesting. But I think another reason is that Jonathan Allen played on a team that landed 31st, I think, 2 years ago in the NFLPA survey, and is really excited about a team that has landed first, second, and second, right? Like that feels like important, right? That players love the team and are communicating that the way that the team is run and the operation of the team is something that they very much enjoy and place a high priority on. Also, it seems to attract veterans specifically, that the Vikings are number one in the league in terms of how they treat player families, right? And like that is like pretty significant. So I want to put that out there, that like, I don't know if that's the reason. Maybe, I'm just kind of reading into it, but it's nice to be on the other side of, and I don't know if that's the reason, than 10 years ago when the only information we had was like income tax.
Nice to be at the intersection of competitive team, well-liked team with a lot of cap space. This is going to be a fun few days. We'll report non-Vikings news as well, just because then we'll know who's off the market. Jalen Moore to the Chiefs, Hasan Darnold to the Bucks. Now, did we fulfill a player coming to an agreement within 2 minutes of the start of tampering? Because that was on the bingo card.
Yeah,
we have no way of knowing.
Well, yeah. No, we can check the, well, first of all, those tweets will come back up after they're sent. They'll probably have the thing on it.
Won't they be tweeted out, like timestamped at like an hour after?
It really depends on how that system works. But the information that we have, Hasan Darnold to the Bucks, was tweeted at, was blue skied at 11:02, which would suggest that within 1 minute. So I would argue that definitely counts when it's a delay, because it's a report of Adam Schefter's report from Twitter. So I'm going to argue that that's within 2 minutes.
I think it hits.
There is a skeet at 9:02 a.m. or 11:02 a.m. for you guys.
Yeah.
So I would check it up.
Yeah. Which
Beautiful.
I don't have that on my card. Oh man.
I have
Yesterday's
no way of knowing what's on my card. I'm on my phone.
It was emailed.
I can't pull them both up at the same time. Unless you want me to leave the show real quick and come back.
You've already done that once. The big news yesterday, Aaron Jones is back. We all forecast this. Remember, we put together our elaborate free agency plans, and I think we all had Aaron Jones back. My projection was that it would count $4 million against the cap. Pretty close, 4.8.
We got cap numbers. Oh, okay, great.
We got cap numbers. Ben Gessling was all over this. $4.8 million against the cap, $13 million
and
guaranteed.
And then 12.8, yeah. 12.8 next year, but with only 2 of that guaranteed.
Right.
Some dead money on the void years.
Kind of a 1-year deal with like basically a team option for year 2.
Yeah.
I think this is a great deal. I mean, it'd
be a really easy restructure too. If you really wanted to do that, you could restructure like 9 million of that, and then you'd end up in 2027. I think you would end up taking like 11 or 12 million dead, which you could do if you were like more comfortable with that. But you could also just easily enough cut him in 2026 and save a little bit of money that way.
And I think this makes perfect sense with the long-term running back plan. Vikings taking a running back would be certainly the common sense move in the draft. I think that there was a little bit of inefficiency to Aaron Jones' game last year. He actually had the biggest volume season of his career. And that's, I think total rushing yards, highest in his career, total carries, highest in his career. I think that he exchanged volume for a little bit of efficiency, though. He was not always available in games in the second half of the season. If they get a rookie in here, I think it actually works out geniusly. If they can get his carries down around 200 instead of 250, you got a running back who splits with him for a year. If he does well, you keep him in year 2. If he doesn't, you cut him loose. You go with the rookie. This is great. I'm a big fan of this plan. No qualms whatsoever about the Aaron Jones deal. Arif, your thoughts?
I actually would probably give him a little bit more credit than you did, mostly because I thought the inefficiency was like a product of mounting injuries and stuff like that, right? Like I think he was actually pretty efficient. It's difficult to fully parse this out because the splits where he's more efficient. So if I do first half, second half of the year splits, right, I'm also accounting for the old offensive line configuration with Christian Darrisaw and, like Ed Ingram, and a healthy Aaron Jones, where let me take a quick look at so his splits like 4.6 yards a carry in the first half of the year, 4.3 in the second half of the year, right? Like relatively efficient. I think rush yards over expectation would produce a very similar result. I know that his yards after contact was okay. So it's like difficult to parse like what the cause is because you had a different offensive line configuration. But I would say like when he's healthy, he's quite good. And maybe the wear and tear contributes to that. And so maybe you're right that is ultimately a volume question. But I just want to put out there that I wouldn't argue that he necessarily had a fully inefficient year. I thought that he played very well, even if the yards per carry numbers at the end of the season weren't outstanding or anything like that. And remember the drop off in terms of efficiency for Aaron Jones, relatively small versus someone like a Dalvin Cook, who every time he got hurt, his efficiency, especially in the last 3 years of his career as a Viking, would plummet, like absolutely plummet. So we both like the deal. I just wanted to push back a little bit. I think I like Aaron Jones even a little bit more than you do. But I also agree that you do need to add like another running back.
Yeah, I'll even go further there and say, like, okay, Aaron Jones is a good running back, and the rushing inefficiency, very rarely when a run play didn't work did I find like, oh, that's Aaron Jones' fault. Very rarely did I find that. That was the problems that we were having all year with Brandel and Bradbury and Reisner or Ingram on the inside. All of those, like I squarely blame those guys for that. And sometimes, a tight end would lose a rep, or, you had David Quessenberry lose a rep, or Cam Robinson lose a rep because he wasn't quite doing it right. So all way bigger culprits than the running back. I think bringing back Aaron Jones, honestly, no brainer. As long as he was going to agree to a sensible contract, which he did, super easy button to push. But yeah, I think we're all on the same page that I think pairing Aaron Jones with a rookie is beautiful. I think a guy we haven't talked about a lot on this show is DJ Giddens out of Kansas State. I really like him. I think he ends up going in the pick 97 range. Like spending pick 97 on him feels like a really natural way to bolster that room, keep Aaron Jones's wear and tear down. Yeah, maybe have a guy that can play more than 2 drives a game, because that's really what they did with like Ty Chandler before Cam Akers got into the building for the second time. And hey, bring back Cam Akers and then have that be your room. And, you got 4 running backs. You feel okay on the roster. Cut one, you're happy.
This isn't because someone in the Locked On Vikings Discord is a Kansas State beat writer, is it?
It is not. I did watch him and like him. But I did start with him early.
Yeah.
And just for posterity, shut up, Kevin.
Thank you. There we go. Shut up, Kevin.
Inman's guy was Hampton, right? Amarian Hampton.
Also a big fan. Really like him too.
I'm team Jordan James. Jordan James is my my sleeper.
Where's he from?
Still have
Oregon.
to get around to watching
Oregon.
that guy. Just way too many running backs in this class to be fully.
There's a lot of like slower running backs in this draft class that are like responsible, that will get you, your efficient 4-yard runs a lot, but like don't have that bursty top end speed. And it's like if Aaron Jones left, your next best free agent would be like Najee Harris, who's the same. So I think it's really important to get somebody who feels a little fast and you just got to make sure that like your chip data isn't telling you that Aaron Jones is going to slow down soon. And I would imagine that because they did it, they probably don't have data that's saying that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We're 15 minutes in. Haven't even talked quarterback yet. We dive into the Sam Darnold drama next. Today's show is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file away every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. This is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Quarterback movement. Sam Darnold still, and again, Twitter's down. We're doing this live. Twitter. Oh, mine just came back. We might be
mine
back.
Just came back. Yeah.
Okay. We'll get caught up. I had a driving in. So non sequitur. I had a driving incident after the storm where all the snow from the top of my vehicle fell on the freeway on my windshield, and I couldn't see. That's how I feel without having Twitter as Tampering opens.
Sounds like you have a problem, Sam. Maybe you need to log off.
I had a problem on the freeway the other day. Fortunately, everybody's okay. I'm okay. The car's okay. Scary though. So Sam Darnold, we don't know his fate yet, but apparently Seattle is a major suitor. I was a little bit confused by the narrative that suddenly Sam Darnold had a market because the Seahawks job opened, but weren't the Raiders a suitor as well? Weren't the Raiders a possible destination?
No shot that was true. That was such agent fluffing. I'm so with you, Sam. That had to be a big lie. Yeah, of course. Sure, the Raiders weren't interested at all, and with them out of the market in Seattle, and now it grew. Yeah, man. Sure, Ian. Sure.
I just find this so funny because it wasn't that long ago. In fact, our last show where the discussion was that Sam Darnold didn't have a market, that he was going to re-sign with the Vikings. And I feel good for having pushed back against that. I was like, hey, look, we're all just making stuff up. Yeah, now suddenly Sam Darnold is a for sure 100% Seahawk. People are pointing to the time he shared in San Francisco with Clint Kubiak, which I don't know. Yeah, sure, I guess. But yeah, maybe, I don't know. It seems like a lot of people think that there's a lot of steam there. What happened to all of the reports literally last week that were like, hey, Sam Darnold is going to stay a Viking? This is, I think with the Sam Darnold, there's stuff where clearly NFL insiders are in the know, right? Very obviously. And then there's other things where it's okay, you're changing the report every couple of days and we have to react to it.
Gaslighting just up the wazoo. We've got a potential Vikings target off the market if you wanted to move on from Garrett Bradbury. Drew Dahlman has signed with the Bears. Big deal, $14 million per year. Takes the top center off the market. Bears loading up.
Big combine rumor there. That one was very well known.
Yeah. We can't ourselves declare that the Bears have won free agency, right? We have to wait for someone else.
I think that would be tampering. That would be illegal tampering.
Yeah.
With the bingo game. Right. I mean, this is also very critical that we have a working X or Twitter platform, because
we should have put that on Bingo too. That Twitter breaks,
X goes down. Yeah, because because that's where a lot of these statements get made that are on the bingo card, right? The free agency cliches. I think mine's still going in and out. we'll keep.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, a bingo insider copy paste an agent fed line about a player. We got that actually even before free agency started. So I don't know if it counts, but I think it does because it's the day. But every insider tweeted out the exact same text for guard Evan Brown re-signing with the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm going to count that.
Yeah, I'll count that as well. Back on the quarterbacks, the Raiders can't resist making questionable decisions. I mean, first of all, teaming
it's
up.
It's in their DNA. Yeah.
It's confounding. Darnold in Seattle with the rain and the wet football seems to be a match made in heaven. We saw how he did in Seattle last year. But again, now I'm seeing suddenly the market on Darnold, they're talking 35 to 40 million per year. We're right back where we were a month ago, talking about the massive Darnold price tag. The roller coaster we've been taking on with his market's hot, his market's cold, his market's just right. Three little bears narratives being thrown out there. But how did Aaron Rodgers get mixed up with the Minnesota
I don't know.
Vikings?
And it's like three people have brought, like Mike Garofalo brought it up. Albert Breer kind of is a dark horse, right? And then one other insider like brought it up like recently as a connection. And I have like no idea where it's coming from. It doesn't make any sense. The Vikings have been very confident, both publicly and privately, about not just JJ McCarthy's talent, but the fact that, you know, his recovery is ahead of schedule. Like, I don't even know where Aaron Rodgers would fit in, like in terms of like what that plan looks like. So I have no idea like why three different insiders tagged the Vikings as a potential destination for Aaron Rodgers. It makes no sense to me.
Just on vibes, we have to entertain this. I mean, we have to talk about it just for a moment. How would this compare vibes-wise to Brett Favre in 2009?
I think it would be worse.
I think it would also be worse. I think that the reason maybe a little bit is that your last impression of the Vikings in 2008 was T-Jack melting down in the playoffs, and you upgraded to Brett Favre. Brett Favre at that time also not as problematic as Mr. Rodgers.
Yeah, at the time. Yeah.
At the time. Not as problematic. Also younger. Brett Favre, didn't it feel like Brett Favre was way older?
It felt like he was older. For
39.
Sure.
He was 39. Rodgers is 41.
He had an older energy about him, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think like it felt like the Vikings were a quarterback away because obviously it was like T-Jack. It felt like the Vikings, you know, just needed which was true, it turns out, just needed like the one more item, and it was a quarterback. Brett Favre, for the first 8 games, I want to say, with the Jets that year, was really good. And then it was the last 8 games where it had kind of collapsed for him. A lot of people blamed the cold weather or whatever, but you still understood like where the talent, you know, was coming from. Like you understood what it was. Like you said, at the time, not as problematic. We didn't know about like the situation with the Jets reporter. We didn't know about the upcoming situation with the Mississippi welfare. And we didn't know about, you know, at the time, we probably didn't even care that much about voting patterns. And now we very much know where Brett Favre is on that perspective, which is a problem for some people, right? All of that is no longer kind of where we're at. So we know a lot more about these athletes. And with Aaron Rodgers, the more we know about him, the less we like him. I think that's an
on-field perspective. Even on an on-field perspective, I don't think anybody looks at Aaron Rodgers right now as like and immediately makes you a Super Bowl contender guy like they did when he first got to the Jets. But they viewed Brett Favre that way. Like the idea of Brett Favre was, okay, you can now win a Super Bowl if Brett Favre's on your team. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers has that reputation anymore. And instead, he has the reputation as like a cancer, as a guy who's going to as a vampire that's going to sink his teeth into the neck of your franchise and drain all of the life force out of it, which is what happened to the Jets.
Yeah. Okay. And this would be a post-June 1 cut designated by the Jets. How does that impact the type of deal Rodgers would sign? I no longer. I don't think
it would cost like anything.
The designation shouldn't change anything one way or the other. Rodgers shouldn't cost much either way, as Luke just said, because he's going to get a ton of money no matter what. It's offset, so he's going to make the same amount of money no matter what he signs for. But the designation doesn't. it's an accounting trick for when the money hits the cap books for the Jets, but not an indication of the cash flow that Rodgers will receive.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers also closely linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who just traded for DK Metcalf, $30 million per year.
That's an outstandingly toxic receiver room. I'm impressed, actually.
Pickens.
Like, yeah, that's
they just got to get Chase Claypool back.
Oh, outstanding. I love it.
I do
Sign
think it's
Stephon Diggs. He's a free agent.
There you go. Perfect.
And Diggs probably missing some time. I don't remember the timeline exactly of the injury. That's again going to be close for him to play week 1. Do you want to bring this up as well? JC Horn's contract could play a role.
Highest paid
in the
defensive
Vikings
back in history. Yeah.
$25 million annual average for a cornerback, with Byron Murphy now hitting the market. Vikings probably needing to sign at minimum one high-priced cornerback. That's going to change the equation. And per James Kunow, James, I'm going to treat this one as gospel. Hope you're right. Guy that was on my list. But again, if you're going after Jonathan Allen, I don't care. BJ Hill to the Bengals. I'm going to take your word for that, James.
Oh, he returns. Something to keep in mind, Sam. So for compensatory pick reasons, if you want to keep that comp pick that you're expecting from Sam Darnold, you probably don't want to sign anybody that starts flirting with that $23-24 million range, because that guy will then qualify for a third and cancel the Darnold pick out. So I would actually kind of think that the Vikings have like a ceiling on how big any given contract can get, assuming that they don't want that guy so bad that it's worth losing the third round pick over. But I don't really see any names in this particular class that are worth that.
Good point, Luke. Keep us on track with the comp pick formula. Braxton Berrios to the Texans, Elijah Mitchell to the Chiefs. I don't know if either moves the needle considerably. You know what does move the needle is Ryan Wright. Ryan Wright is back with the Vikings on a 1-year contract, $1.75 million, restricted free agent punter. I'm good with that. I'm good with Ryan Wright. I thought he bounced back from a mediocre 2023. He had the best inside the 20 percentage of his 3-year career. Touchback percentage was about 8%, which is not as good as his rookie year, but still pretty decent. And I think he's a good holder. I think he's a good holder for Will Reichert. I've got no qualms. Good with Ryan Wright. We all good with Ryan Wright?
Yeah, sure. I think it's kind of easy to overrate him, but he did have like a bounce back season, which is nice.
Yeah, I thought a couple more touchbacks than I'd like, where the spin was just bad. And by the way, BJ Hill, 3 years, $33 million. That, I guess that's similar to what I projected. I thought it'd be a little shorter deal, but it's a big contract. Arif is keeping me updated. Gesicki re-signs with the Bengals as well. Yeah. All right, so we're still waiting for the any big Minnesota Vikings dominoes to fall. We are struggling with Twitter. We are doing our absolute best to get you the latest. What do we think will be the first Minnesota Vikings related domino to fall? Is it going to be Murphy? Is it going to be Darnold? Is it going to be something else?
If it would have been Murphy, I think it would be bad news. I think if Murphy was going to re-sign quickly with the Vikings, it would have already happened. That's not to say he won't come to the Vikings, but I think a quicker decision is more likely the type of decision where he signs with another team, if that makes sense. So I hope that's not the first domino to fall. Let's go with Jonathan Allen, actually. Let's do that one. So Curtis Nelson in the chat says Allen as he's in TCO. Yeah, he is. He can't like sign today though. So like him physically being there may matter because maybe he wants to take a look at the facility before he comes to a decision, and that's fine. But like he can't like put pen to paper yet. So it might matter, but I don't want to like, over prepare for that. Oh wait, no, Taylor, you're right. Sorry, he can sign. He was cut. My bad. That's on me. Yeah, so Taylor Georgopoulos corrected me. He can sign because he was cut. So yeah, he can sign today. So let's make that the first domino in an official sense. I think that would be great. Otherwise, people in chat are saying DJ Reed might be the first one. I think that would be a little optimistic. Let's see. I don't think that any of the re-signings are going to be the first domino for the Vikings. Like I think that would have all happened last night, like with Ryan Wright, right, or Aaron Jones. So yeah, that's going to be my prediction is Jonathan Allen.
So if my gut tells me that Murphy is gone. I feel like Murphy is going to go somewhere, get a bunch of money, might even be in the $20 million range. If that's the case, tells me again, the Vikings maybe don't want to pay high-end money. They want to try to find a little more value. And then in that case, it might take a couple days. It might not be today if it's not the number one. If they're not willing to pay that to Murphy, I assume they're not willing to pay that for someone like DJ Reed. Maybe I'm wrong. But they might wait until they can find someone for like $15 million per year. Maybe it's Asante Samuel Jr.
Yahtzee in chat says, wouldn't the Vikings want to be the first to be the first one to sign a cornerback to set a market? The market's been set. JC,
yeah.
I made a joke that JC Horn was making more money per year than games he started, which was not true, and people immediately corrected me. But the fact that I thought that he started 37 games over 4 years. It's like a really wild situation for him to sign for like $25 million a year.
Someone did an all caps Johnny Munt. That's definitely on our bingo cards too. Did that? Yeah. If that happened for real, got to let me know. Commanders signed Javon Kinlaw. There's a DT off the market.
$45 million, man.
Let's remind folks again what these were our big swings that we projected in free agency. Arif, you've already lost Dahlman. You had Hufanga, Reed, Tevin Jenkins, Braun, also Reed, Mike Hilton, Jonathan Allen, Kevin Zeitler. Inman had Reed again, loving DJ Reed. He also had Tevin Jenkins. I went with Mekhi Becton, who, by the way, is hitting free agency. Right guard possibility there. BJ Hill, now gone. Asante Samuel, still out there. Would like Murphy as well. I think he's going to be gone. And I'd like to re-sign Bynum. Don't have a good read on Bynum other than it sounds like they tried negotiating. Braun, when
been pretty quiet on that front, yeah.
Yeah, when you hear that report, when you hear team tried until the last second to find the right number, how often do they end up coming back to that team? Feels like a negative.
I think it depends on, now at this point, it's, okay, you're in a bidding war for this player, and you could win that bidding war for this player, but other teams are allowed to get there. And if you had your limit, you probably already set it, right? You had probably already offered that player what you're going to get. Now you just kind of need to cross your fingers that nobody else is willing to go that high and tail between his legs. He comes back. So I think my gut now is that both these guys are gone, but I don't know. It's like anything can happen, and it's tampering, right? Like we very famously saw Anthony Barr do this however many years ago, where he shook hands with a team, and then the Vikings at the last minute went, no, you know what? We're going to up our offer. We are going to bring you back. Minds can change when deadlines come, right? So anything can still happen. But I will say part of that might be because of the Vikings read on those markets as well, and saying, well, we could bring you back Byron Murphy, or we could get DJ Reed to do the same job for $3 million less, and we're going to be happy with that. So it's one of those things, like, I would be very sad to see those two guys go, but they are going to get replaced by somebody, and it could be somebody very exciting. In fact, I would say that's even probable.
I don't think Kwesi yearns the way that Rick Spielman did to keep guys in-house that he drafted. That clearly is not his style when they pretty freely cut third and fourth round picks. Like that's not Kwesi's way. I'd be surprised if there were like late desperation offers to keep dudes in the building. I don't think he's going to roll that way. We're still waiting for Twitter to fix itself. Come on, Elon. Get it together. We'll pause and return with more live reaction. Tampering is open on the
Game Time
Football Party. Brought to you today by FanDuel. It's March. March Madness is here. FanDuel gives you the chance to get in the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. 200 extra bucks to use on all the buzzer beaters and the Cinderella stories. You can predict who's going to cut down the nets and win that championship. Roll with the underdogs. That's my best advice. I think if you take the underdog spread, historically, you're going to come out making money. Take all the underdog money lines. Hit a couple good 14 seeds. Always hit a 12, 13, 15. More parity than ever. That's my advice at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com. Get in the college hoops action. All tournament long. Bet 5. Get 200. FanDuel. And so the football party rolls on. We will be doing this again on Thursday after the official open of free agency. We got our Care 11 show on Wednesday. Ron Johnson's breaking down all of today's moves on tomorrow's show. He also has an interview with Cody Lindenberg, Gophers draft hopeful.
Sam,
again,
I got a split, but before I go, I just wanted to tell everybody I will be live as well on Locked On Vikings later tonight. And depending on how things go, I'll be live throughout the week, kind of as signings happen. So come check out Locked On Vikings if there's not a live Minnesota football party to go check out.
Thank you, Luke Braun.
I hope it's miserable.
Later, man. Thank you. Locked On Vikings. Check it out. He's Luke Braun. Let's take down those name tags. Got a visual redundancy.
Yeah, that's rough. Okay.
Here we go. All right. Just myself, Arif Hasan, Luke Inman, regrettably absent. He wishes he could be here. Illness. Out. Yeah. Knocked him out of the game.
What was the exact wording of that text? Let me take a look at it.
Sicker than a dog. Not sick as a dog. Sicker than a dog, which, I mean, that's a whole new level of illness, presumably. Back to Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers feel like the fit. I mean, the Steelers kind of are directionless at quarterback.
I mean, if Mike Tomlin can make Aaron Rodgers and George Pickens and DK Metcalf, if he can make that locker room work, like, he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. That's crazy. Think about it this way: if they brought Antonio Brown back, just like hypothetically, to play in the slot, in terms of on-field behavior, the guy who tore his shirt off in the middle of the game and walked off the field is probably the least objectionable. Like that, it's crazy. Drunken Vike says in the chat, Rodgers and George Pickens are either going to be best friends forever or try to kill each other in the locker room, no in between. Yeah, man. And I think it's probably the second, because Pickens does tend to have, like, he likes to run his own routes, which is not really how Rodgers likes to organize things. Someone in the chat just put in something about Seifert. I don't recognize that name in the chat. Sorry, I don't necessarily trust you yet. So I am going to look that up. Seifert is on Blue Sky, though, so it shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah, let's confirm that before we report it. That's a very interesting nugget if true. My Twitter is still down.
So this is what Seifert tweeted. During ESPN's free agency special on ESPN2, Dan Orlovsky suggests Jameis Winston as the Vikings UFA QB option, presumably if Daniel Jones signs elsewhere. So the priority would still be Daniel Jones above that. I don't know how much Dan Orlovsky.
That sounds like speculation, not a report. Because I'm sure Schefter's on that desk as well.
Yeah.
Unless he's feeding info to make Orlovsky sound smart. That would be a little surprising.
Yeah.
Not completely out of play. I think it'd be interesting. It'd be surprising. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, still out there as well. A lot of people have speculated that could be a possibility. Now, Daniel Jones, there was one report that he was down to the Colts and the Vikings. I would argue that the Colts is a higher likelihood of Jones finding time.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
100%.
It really depends on how much Jones values the environment, right? And I don't just mean like being able to throw to just Jefferson, right? Like that obviously has its own value. But rather, I mean, Did you kind of benefit enough from Kevin O'Connell's coaching? Do you think you even need it? Are you the kind of player that's so confident in your own abilities that actually you just needed to get out of New York, like so many other quarterbacks, in order to succeed? Do you think you could do that anywhere? And is Indianapolis one of those places? So how important is Kevin O'Connell? How important is, ownership support? How important is it that, the Vikings have committed publicly to a competition with JJ McCarthy, but it's not really the same as the Colts committing publicly to a competition with Anthony Richardson, where that one feels a lot more genuine and a lot more likely that you'll win. There's a lot of environmental factors that are kind of interesting and would kind of speak to Daniel Jones's priorities, which is not like a moral or ethical judgment, but would speak to just kind of the things that he cares about, whether or not he thinks he needs a coaching staff that'll develop him, or whether or not he thinks actually the Colts coaching staff is one of those staffs that can develop him, or whether, he thinks he doesn't even need development, that kind of thing. So I'm kind of curious about that.
PHT, I'm into Jameis playing for us just for the funnies of a 3 TD, 3 interception game. You have Nick Mullins.
Yeah,
it would re-sign Nick Mullins for $1 million.
Get rid of Nick Mullins to add Jameis Winston would be kind of hilarious. Like, yeah, I technically an upgrade, but it's like the same. It's like the Pokemon evolution. Like, what are we doing?
Let's review again sort of our ideal free agency plans. Now, we both agree, Arif, that void years are going to be liberally utilized. Kwesi's going to make this money go a long way. Aaron Jones' contract, great precursor to this. $10 million annual value, and he's got him on the books at $4.8 million for this year. I think that there's also about $20 million they can clear up. Now, we might not get that news today. I think that you can restructure O'Neal, save about $10 million. You can restructure Hawkinson, save $7.5. Probably one. I'm guessing there's one veteran cut. Whether it's, an Oliver, a Bradbury, I think you're probably going to clear up another $20 million against the cap. So in essence, you have 80 to play with. So far, they've committed 4.8 to Jones, 1.75 to Wright, and then whatever Theo Jackson is on the books for this year, I think it's his tender number, which is about 3.7.
Right.
So you've basically committed $10 million out of let's say it's 80 if you make those restructures.
Right.
You've that's the tip of the iceberg that you've committed so far, about 1/8 of your available money, with again bringing 3 players back. Any forecast on what Jonathan Allen would cost? Do you think is it BJ Hill money or less or more? BJ Hill was 3.
I mean, if Javon Kinlaw is going for $15 million a year,
yep.
And a lot of these numbers right now look pretty large, right? And obviously we just have to like have a good understanding of like how the cap increases and stuff like that. And so every free agency, the numbers are going to look a little large. But even after accounting for that, some of these numbers are really surprising to me. The reported potential market for someone like offensive tackle Dan Moore is like north of 20 million. So like, I don't know what's happening here, but I think that Jonathan Allen's agent knows that he doesn't qualify for the compensatory pick formula, right? And so probably that has some value that you can leverage. And so that might increase his number just because he's more valuable to teams than an equivalently talented defensive tackle that just hit free agency, right? 2, I think that if someone like a Kinlaw, who is like not good, is getting 15 a year, Allen, even though he's 30, I would expect gets more than that. To me, a $15 million Javon Kinlaw suggests at least 18 for Allen, and I would expect higher than that. So, yeah, it is. I think that would be quite an expensive signing, and it would qualify as like a free agency splash.
Allen just turned 30. He missed 10 weeks with injury this past year. His last deal he signed for in 2021 was $18 million per year. Now, the cap environment has changed a lot from that time. He's also depreciated as an asset. Like you said, the Kinlaw market setter is probably going to make this deal between the $15 and $20 million mark. He's not going to get Odigizua money. Odigizua signed for $20 million per year. Kinlaw, for the record, 27 years old, not the performance at all of Allen, probably in a better health situation. I'm guessing Allen probably usurps the Kinlaw deal by a little bit, not too much more. And if it's 15 million, if it's 17 million annual average, what do you think Kwesi has that go against the books? Like 10, 8? Kwesi will find a way to kick that down the road.
Yeah, I mean, how many years do we think that they would sign Allen for? I don't think it'd be a 1-year deal, right?
I would guess 2, and if he can get
2
3
and a void or something like that, because I think it might be 3 and a void. And if you can get 3 and a void, obviously you can tune that number down a lot. So if it's like, let's say it's an $18 million deal or something like that, you could probably get that down to. James Kunow just in chat said, hopefully there's a Wi-Fi dead zone in DCO, so Allen's agent didn't see the Kinlaw deal. We can hope, right? But you could probably tune down an $18 million deal in the first year to like $4 million in cap, right? Especially if you get to add, a third year to the contract and then a fourth void year on top of that.
I think we got to hit the sound for this. G is going back to the Rams. Backup quarterback option is off the market. $11 million. Jimmy
Seems low.
That's the Rams are not messing around. Devontae Adams basically replacing Cooper Kupp. They signed Tutu Atwell to a $10 million deal. Stafford back.
Don't know what that's about.
Yeah. Rams are doing some stuff. All right.
Where is chat getting these updates, man? I can't get Twitter to do jack.
Yeah, I've got nothing. Blue Sky has got to be your source. Packers, Jair Alexander they're not moving him yet. That's an interesting situation. But it seems like Alexander's run his course in Green Bay. That could be another piece to a crowded cornerback market. And there's so much available in free agency. I don't think anybody's going to swing a deal and give Green Bay anything with this many cornerbacks available. You've got Reed, you've got Ward, you've got my guy Samuel, Byron Murphy, and that's just the start. Mike Hilton. It's a pretty busy cornerback room. If not DJ Reed, Arif, who would be your cornerback fallback? Because I think people are pretty committed to DJ Reed as their favorite.
Yeah, so if you can't get DJ Reed, and if like the trackers on like Byron Murphy said like 17 million, now it sounds like it might be even higher. I don't know. Like there's still like a couple of good cornerbacks on the market, right? Like we mentioned Carlton Davis, who just recently posted that, he's not going to make the mistake of settling for less money, which is like kind of an alarming thing for a team to see. It wasn't exactly that, but he's like, I'm going to take care of myself or something like that. But I do like Carlton Davis, assuming that he doesn't sign for like $25 million a year. I'm not opposed to Rasul Douglas. He's fine. He didn't have like a wonderful 2024, but his like career has been fine. I wouldn't be opposed to him. Travarius Ward isn't a bad signing either. He's, I think, a year younger than Rasul Douglas, so that wouldn't be terrible. But like these kinds of signings where it's like they're coming off of an uncharacteristically poor year, Rasul Douglas, Travarius Ward, like they do seem a little bit more like Kwesi signings, whereas Carlton Davis coming off of a better season for him doesn't. I'm not over the moon about Asante Samuel Jr. I know like a lot of people are. And someone like a Mike Hilton or even a Samuel Jr. would be a nickel signing more than an outside signing. So these aren't really the same positions that we're talking about. But I think if they don't get DJ Reed, I would probably want to make sure I get someone like a Douglas or a Davis.
We don't have a number, but Jordan Lewis, Cowboys free agent, signs a 3-year deal with Jacksonville. That's another cornerback off the market. Again, these are the cornerback contracts that you're looking at actively in the league right now. J.C. Horn signs $25 million per year, 4-year deal. That sets the market. You've got 6 that are making $20 million or more per year. And I'm sure that's what Byron Murphy is going to be targeting. Age 27 or 28 for Murphy. 27, I think. Still in his prime. Yeah. The Vikings are going to need to spend money at corner. And the contract might come across, and you might have some sticker shock. It might be $18 million per year. You might say, wow, that's a lot. Holy cow. But you have to, I think our comprehension of contracts is always a little slow relative to the salary cap, relative to league trends. That would only be $18 million per year. That's like the 15th most expensive cornerback contract. You just have to adjust your normal. I know that salaries have escalated really quickly, but sometimes it's more of a bargain than you think it is. We'll see. And Kwesi's not the type of GM that's going to pay the highest guy. He's going to find a little bit of value there, try to get somebody that maybe he's got a little bit of depreciated value, and then hope to buy low on that player. That's been his trend so far. I'm hearing Twitter is back. Is that true?
In a sense, it never will be, but in terms of whether or not the website is online, I believe it's true. But
I do not have it. I'm rolling with ESPN's live tracker, which has been fairly handy. Linebacker Robert Spillane signs with the Patriots. I think on our bingo cards, we do have a square where, quote, Patriots winning the offseason.
It wasn't Patriots. It was. Oh yeah, Patriots was one of them. Yeah, Patriots win the offseason. Bears win the offseason. Someone wins the offseason with the 3 because the Patriots have the most cap space. I don't know that Robert Spillane is going to do that for them. But yeah. So a Steelers reporter, and I don't know anything about how credible Jerry Dulac is for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, but he seems really confident that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign as a Steeler. He says close to a deal with the Steelers. So that's your Aaron Rodgers update for the last 10 minutes, I guess. But yeah, Drunken Vike, you're right. Bears do have a big lead currently in the offseason. We'll see. The trade for Joe Thuney is going to make it really difficult for someone else to win the offseason Super Bowl, but it's still possible. I believe in the Patriots.
Let's again revisit some of the key characters for the Minnesota Vikings that we are watching. Will Freeze from the Colts has been a big name at guard, potentially. I think we're expecting a splash at that position. We're watching Mekhi Becton. We are watching Tevin Jenkins. Certainly watching the guard market. We're watching the cornerbacks. What other position, and defensive tackle, obviously watching there too. So outside of those 3, interior O-line, defensive tackle, corner, could you see a big splash being made anywhere else today or in the next couple days?
Guard. Why not guard?
I said guard. I think I said guard. Interior O-line, defensive tackle, cornerback would be the 3 big targets.
I mean, you could make a splash at safety. That would surprise me. Benjamin Albright on Blue Sky suggested that Hufanga might become a Bronco. That's not like a report. It's more like the Broncos are prioritizing him. But like, I don't like Holland, I guess, right? Like, I don't know what a splash at safety would look like, but I guess it's probably those 2. But yeah, that's the only other position where you feel like they could, in theory, make an enormous splash at quarterback, right? They could just sign Aaron Rodgers and make our lives hell. But it does seem like the positions you outline are the most likely ones that are going to kind of move the needle for the Vikings.
Good scoop from Tyler Fornes. It's Will Fries, like French fries. We've been going back and forth on that on this show. Will Fries. Also seeing in the chat.
Yeah, Jordan. Diana Rossini reported Paulson Adebo to the Saints, which is what the chat just said.
They're saying Adebo to the Giants.
To the Giants. Former Saints defensive back to the Giants.
Yes.
My bad.
For 3 years and around $30 million.
Yeah.
So lower end cornerback money.
It's funny. Someone used a stat head comparison tool between Adebo in J.C. Horn to suggest that Adebo was going to make, J.C. Horn type money. And it's like, that's not going to happen. Sorry, the Stathead comparison tool is actually not that great. Love you, Stathead. And I love that technically you kind of sponsor me, but that is not a great tool.
I mean, I love the category that's just like games played.
Yeah, green.
Yeah.
Fumbles recovered.
Tackles.
Green.
Fumbles.
Yeah, tackles. Yeah, like, all right.
Traditional statistics that really have nothing to do with performance or efficiency. That is interesting. Again, Minnesota Vikings going in with the 6th most cap space. Chance to make a big splash. We are 1 hour into tampering, and thus far, the Minnesota Vikings have not done a thing. To recap, Aaron Jones back, 2 years, $20 million. This was yesterday. Ryan Wright re-signs last night. He was a restricted free agent, 1 year, $1.75 million, a little bit of incentive there. Theo Jackson on Thursday, he re-signed basically a 3-year deal, 2-year extension on top of his tender year. And the thought is that Theo Jackson either is going to be a week 1 starter or he'll be sitting in the wings behind Harrison Smith and safety du jour and then take over in 2026. Alec Lewis had a report a couple days ago indicating that signs point toward Harrison Smith returning. The fact that we haven't heard anything contrary to that yet, Arif, unless he's told the team privately, unless there's some reason for them not to announce his retirement, I would think that he is going to be coming back. Do you have any reason to think that he could still hang it up?
I mean, yeah. Luke made the point last episode that because the Vikings will always have like the option, because like it's always going to potentially split his cap hit over the next 2 years, no matter what he does, that it kind of doesn't matter when he announces his retirement, except in terms of cap impact, except how it relates to the Vikings' plans. And so the Vikings would just have to know. And either way, the Vikings should be adding a starting quality safety to take over for him either this year or next year. Anyway, maybe that's Theo Jackson. I don't know. But I would think that the Lewis report that he, is likely to return and that there's been no pushback against that would suggest that we're probably going to see another year of him, which would rule. I can't, put it any other way. Okay. So according to much of the chat via Adam Schefter, Panthers get Milton Williams. That's also on my Blue Sky feed right now. So
that's soundworthy. That's soundworthy.
That's huge.
I don't think that was ever fueled by credible reporting to link him to the Vikings. I think it was more of a wish.
Like a need fit kind of, yeah.
List. Yeah. Milton Williams. Probably. And that, again, that's going to influence the Jonathan Allen deal. That's going to influence the DT market significantly, probably around money, probably around $20 million per. Here's my question. If the Vikings are meeting with Jonathan Allen, who's conducting the meeting? And if Kwesi's in the meeting, who is handling free agency?
I mean, like you can always have, like, first of all, text messages work great. But second, that's why you have a front office full of like multiple types of personnel. So one, Kwesi might not be the one walking Jonathan Allen through the facility, right? Like you can have somebody walk into the facility, and at the very end, Kwesi has a meeting with them. Then while Kwesi has a meeting, someone is handling the phones. You can have like your director of pro personnel be doing that, or vice versa. Like I don't think necessarily, like, you probably want Jonathan Allen walking through the facility with Brian Flores, if we're being completely honest.
No, this is how you want it. This is how you play it, Arif. So you do sit Kwesi down across from Jonathan Allen, and you have Kwesi put his phone just so that Jonathan Allen can see the caller ID, and you set it up so that you change someone's name in your phone to like Milton W or Levi O, and then have them call Kwesi mid-meeting.
My God. Okay, yeah. First of all, there's
no
way.
Jonathan, hey, sorry, hang on. Yeah, Milton, hi. Yeah, we'd love to have you. Yeah, absolutely. And just get him nervous a little bit, right? Make it so he doesn't want to leave.
First of all, no way is Levi Onwuzurike moving the needle for anyone. But second, that sounds needlessly aggressive. I actually wouldn't want to do that just to stop taking off the player. Like, I think having that. Okay, so first of all, I thought the first part of your plan wasn't awful, except Levi O. That we don't need that. But
Are we not? Are we out on Levi?
there's no way he's not in the same level as Jonathan Allen, Milton Williams.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Okay.
But second, the part of the plan that I thought I would like is you would get text messages and notifications would light up, but I wouldn't take a phone call in the middle of a meeting. That's so rude. Whether or not it's with a fake person, that's crazy. That's so disrespectful.
How about this? Okay, let's just flip it a little bit. You take the call from the fake Milton Williams and you say, "Sorry, Milton, we've got our guy here," and hang up. That's a sign of respect.
Well, yeah, that's so confident. That's a lot better.
That's a flex.
But like, man, that's you had like, if that's happening, like, you have to know that meeting is going spectacularly, right? So you have to have a plan of action for how the meeting is going, right? If the meeting is going spectacularly, pick it up, tell them you can't do it, hang up, right? If the meeting is, you can't read the tea leaves on that one, it rings, and then probably you just press the hang up button to show him that he's a priority, right? But also to also be like, but we do have other plans if you don't. But I'm here with you right now. And if the meet, okay, so I was waiting for the Dan Moore money to come in because Blue Sky was like, Dan Moore got paid what? Sorry, I'm interrupting this. Dan Moore got paid what? And like, nobody was giving me the money on Blue Sky, and Twitter was down. So I'm gonna trust chat when especially Michael Chow, who says Dan Moore left tackle, 4 years, $82 million. I did say that the rumor yesterday was that Dan Moore would be paid north of $20 million. That's exactly what happened. $20.5 million per year. It's unreasonable. I don't like that amount of money in terms of percentage of cap. We'll take a look at that as the day breaks down. I'll probably put up a post about percentage of cap at the after a bunch of big signings happen over at wide left. But that to me strikes me as, even when you account for percentage of cap, way higher than Dan Moore's overall prospects as a player. So that's $50 million guaranteed, according to Ian Rappaport. That's crazy to me. Bad dad joke. I don't know if I can trust you. I am absolutely Googling that one. That's crazy.
And I am absolutely in on my guy Russ with the Giants.
That's the one I'm trying to confirm.
Reported. We'll call it a rumor at this point, and if Arif can confirm it, we'll call it a hard and fast report. Russell Wilson.
Bad dad joke said, "Nope, I just got roasted." Okay.
Ow.
This is why I don't trust you. I was like, Sam, what are you doing? Don't say it. And then you said it.
Got a little reckless with the button. The button is appealing. It's a fickle temptress.
I was about to say it's a tempting mistress. Yeah. Man.
Dan Moore paid more than Ronnie Stanley. Yes. Weird things happen in the tampering period. It's monopoly money. It's not real. It's a fugazi. It's a fugazi. It's a what? Fairy dust. Yeah, Macho does appreciate the sound.
Is he alive? I haven't. He talked about how he was on life support, needed the sound to live, and then we went maybe 40 minutes without the sound. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Glad you're still with us. The Vikings have sat out the first hour and 7 minutes. Someone suggested that Kwesi wasn't allowed to start until noon Central Time. He didn't get the memo. I think maybe there was a daylight savings fiasco. I think that's possible too. I think that maybe he didn't get the clock changed. Now, would that make him an hour early or an hour late?
Wouldn't it make him an hour early?
So when I woke up at 7:30, it was actually 6:30. So 12. Yeah, no, he would, if he missed it, he would be an hour late. So he actually just started 7 minutes ago.
Okay, great. So Alec Lewis reports, and this is just like a general report. This is not breaking news. Vikings still very much in the IDL market. He's quote tweeting a Milton Williams piece. Very much in the IDL market, similar to last year with Christian Wilkins. They just prefer not to pay at the top of the market. They are more strategic, parentheses, with comp picks in mind too, which to me strongly suggests Jonathan Allen.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Allen, really the only one that's been concretely linked to the Minnesota Vikings that I can remember. I don't think I've seen any other reports saying that the Vikings were in on Levi. Also, my Twitter just came back. This is great news. First tweet on top, Chad Graff, former Vikings beat writing great, now Patriots. Long way to go. This hasn't been a banner day for the Patriots.
Yeah, that's rough for me. I mean, it's not on my bingo card, but I did suggest it, so I've got a little bit of fidelity to it.
Derek Barnett back to the Texans. There's the Dan Moore. There's Jordan Lewis. All right, we're pretty well caught up here. And Aaron Rodgers very close to signing.
What do you make of Zadarius Smith getting cut by the Lions?
I wanted to get to this.
Yeah.
Did you see the associated move though? Who they did sign?
Hold on. This is not Vikings news, but Ian Rappaport tweets out per Tom Pelissero, the Patriots are signing Carlton Davis, 3-year, $60 million deal.
Oh, someone tell Chad Graff. That's
I think it was because of Chad Graff's tweet that they made a move.
I think they felt the pressure from local media. So Carlton Davis, who had been linked to the Vikings, I want to say that was either Darren Wolfson, maybe Ben Gessling. There was interest there, $20 million per year.
Yeah. Carlton
Davis, Byron Murphy feel like similar free agent prospects. I think that Murphy's going for $20 million, you guys. I mean, I think that's the price has gone up in the last 24 hours, in the last 4 hours. Back to former Vikings edge rushers that had very short tenures. Did you see who the Lions did re-sign?
I probably did, but I don't know what you're talking about. My brain isn't working right now, so tell me.
Marcus Davenport.
Oh, I did not actually see that. That's fascinating.
He missed all of last year for Detroit?
I believe he missed all of last year.
Yeah. Why can't Zadarius Smith stick? Does he refuse to negotiate restructures?
Yeah, I mean, like at some point, like I wonder if he is not aware of what like these contracts suggest or something like that. Because he was like very upset that the Vikings did not increase his pay after he had signed a multi-year contract. And if I remember correctly, right? Typically I am on the player side of like always get the bag, right? Like I think players should get paid more. I think we should almost abolish the salary cap. Whatever, right? I love it when players get paid, and I don't really care if billionaires lose money. But like at some point, like when you sign a contract, like at some point you got to realize that like there is a lot less wiggle room than if you're a free agent. And he seems to always think he has the wiggle room of a free agent. And so I don't know, like that was a very quote unquote team friendly deal that he signed with the Lions, but it was, I think it was like partway through the year, right? It wasn't like right away, which is how that happens. But like, I don't know what he's expecting, and the Lions kind of cutting that for a player that produced for them is really interesting.
So, quick clarification: that was a free agent contract signed with the Browns, and then a trade.
Okay,
that was a deadline 7th round pick for Ann Smith for a 5th and a 6th, and had 1 year left on that deal, which average value was 11.5. And the Lions really weren't in cap hell. They could have made that work. And it's curious.
I'm wondering what that's about, because it seemed like he was producing more than the deal had suggested, and maybe he just wanted to be released because he knew he was producing more than the amount of money that was left on the deal. Like maybe he asked for his release, but I feel like if I was his agent, I'd get that out there immediately. I wouldn't want it out there that he was just cut.
Worth pointing out, though, that let's remember the conditions under which he was traded for. Aiden Hutchinson was out.
Yes.
And a bunch of guys.
But but one of the things about the Lions is that they need someone to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. Like that's the thing that people were saying last year, before the season started, and then absolutely when the season was started, when he was like doubling the pressure total of any other edge rusher by himself, right? Without any edge rushing help, and so a lot of people are talking about how he needed help. Za'Darius Smith seems like the kind of person that you'd be able to pair. Like I understand that the circumstances were to replace Aiden Hutchinson after he went down. But like a big part of like the way that people have talked about it, and maybe the Lions just disagree, right? So that could be it. But like a big part of that discussion seemed to be like, we need someone to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. So he's not always having to fight through double teams and stuff like that. So maybe he could have 3 times the pressure count of like a Micah Parsons, which is like a crazy thing to even conceive of, right? But like,
yeah.
I feels like, that could be how you make that defense take you all the way to the Super Bowl is, make it so you have 2 edge rushers instead of 1. That's just me, though.
Za'Darius Smith will be 33 for week 1 of the season. I don't know how many other 8-figure annual deals he's going to get. Maybe one more. Maybe one more. And it's probably going to be a series of 1-year deals henceforth for Za'Darius Smith, who now is on, 1, 2, 4 or 5 teams. That there are a couple Vikings free agent signings whose careers I wish had been longer in Minnesota. Za'Darius would be one. Michael Pierce would be the other in recent years.
Oh, Michael Pierce.
What amounted to 1 year with the Vikings with Pierce. He had the COVID year.
Yeah.
And Za'Darius, we thought we were getting a 3-year pact, and that ended up only being 1 with virtually no return. Disappointing. So I'm glad you brought that up. Very curious. Looking around the NFC North, Packers typically not very active, and they have not done anything to my knowledge other than the Jair Alexander might not be dealt report. Bears bolstering the offensive line, which is good for Ben Johnson and good for Caleb Williams. Good for them. We'll see if it works. I don't know if Joe Thuney is still the guy that the Chiefs signed. But I have to dig into that a little bit more.
It's tough to tell because they required him to play tackle, right? And so, given like all of the injuries and just the general, like it wasn't good, like the injuries and also the talent, that made it difficult for them to play at his like more natural position. So I think he's still very, very good. Like when you look at his. Like, I know that, Luke doesn't love PFF grades, and I know that it's kind of easy to lean on them a little bit too much. But when you only look at his PFF grades at guard, he's still elite. If you look at his grades at tackle, it's not wonderful, but that he's not a tackle, so who cares? I think he's exactly still the guy that the Chiefs signed. So I don't love this as somebody who covers a team that plays against the Bears, right? I don't love this for the Vikings, but I think the Bears got a great deal, which is what we always say about the Bears. But like this time, even in Bears adjusted terms, I think that this was a really good move for them. So I'm a little bit surprised by that.
Still nothing from the Minnesota Vikings. Now we're 16 into the tampering period. Let me run down some in-house free agents. Give me your yes or no on whether the Vikings should re-sign. Shaq Griffin.
Yes, unless the cornerback market is so screwed up that even a Shaq Griffin is gonna. But yeah,
I certainly can't see Shaq at the Lewis or a Debo level. He signed for 4.5 last year. Let's put him at 5 or 6.
I wouldn't be surprised if he got a raise, but yeah, I don't think he's above 10 million or anything like that.
I would also re-sign him. I think that he could be your third guy. Put him in a room with one.
I think ideally he's your 4th guy, and I think he knows that. But if you're forced into a position where he's your 3rd guy, I don't think you're extraordinarily upset.
Blackman, Griffin, one highly paid number 1, plus a rookie. That'd be a decent start to a room.
It's decent. Yeah, it's not outstanding. It's decent for sure.
Jonathan Bullard,
Yeah, he played well. Yeah,
Good on Bullard. That's Luke Braun is a Jonathan Bullard
he's a huge Jonathan
fan
Bullard
club president.
Yeah. But I mean, he's a better run defender than I expected. Like when he first signed with the Vikings way back, he struck me as like a pure 3 technique. I think he played edge in college even. So, I was like surprised at how good of a run defender he was. But like that's a pretty critical part of the way that they orient these defensive tackles. So yeah, absolutely resign him.
Brandon Powell. There was a report that the Vikings want to upgrade at punt returner. That's Powell's job, obviously. He'd be cheap to return. Would you sign him back and have him in the room at least in training camp?
Yeah, I think in training camp, I want to commit to him as a 53-man guy, but like absolutely re-sign him. At the very least, if you can't land that upgrade at punt, like you can't guarantee that you're going to get a better punt returner. So I would at least bring in a guy so you have the floor. And I think that that's Brandon Powell. So like, yeah, re-sign him, but you don't have to commit to him being on the roster during the season.
Here's where I stand at wide receiver. You've got your 2. The catch is that you might not have your number 2 for 3 or 4 games. Whatever the suspension is of Jordan Addison, we got to assume that that's going to happen. You're going to have a chunk of the season where you're relying on your number 3 to be your number 2. Can Jalen Naylor be that guy? And when he is, and when Addison is there, do you need to upgrade over Jalen Naylor, who in really his first year getting a full-time opportunity, 414 yards, 6 TDs, couple bad drops. Your thoughts on Naylor?
If you like, so abstractly as like a wide receiver 3, I think Naylor is fine. And maybe you want to be more than fine, but I think abstractly he's fine. But when you put it in the context of like, hey, really good chance that for a good chunk of the season, he's going to be wide receiver 2. That is a worry. I don't think that he's fit for that. I would love for him to prove me wrong. I really enjoyed kind of the way that he's progressed with the Vikings, but I can't be that comfortable with him as wide receiver 2, even if you have TJ Hawkinson in the building, right? So yeah, in that context, I would want to make sure that there's another viable option there for you. Plus it's not like you're in a bad spot if you've got 4 really good pass catchers, right? So you might as well add a wide receiver 3 quality player that can moonlight as a wide receiver 2 in those games, so that you've got Hawkinson, Addison, Jefferson, and then this like phantom wide receiver 2-3 kind of guy to throw to, plus Aaron Jones is like an outlet. Like that seems like, I'd want to set up JJ McCarthy for success. That seems like one way to do it.
Keep running down the list. Jihad Ward, your thoughts?
I mean, I like him. I thought that he played well ahead of his projections, right? I thought that he played better than I would have expected, especially off the edge. I would be concerned if they entered the season with Jihad Ward as edge 4, but that doesn't mean I don't think he's a reasonable camp body. If they don't re-sign him, I'm not that upset, right? But I think it's probably better to re-sign him because I think that you could do a lot worse when it comes to edge 5, which is the hopeful projection for him.
I think he finished 3rd on the team in pressures last year, was put on the field in a lot of advantageous situations, but I think he was tied for 3rd with Blake Cashman. I think it was. It's
crazy. I mean, like the hope, of course, is that Dallas Turner becomes like a insanely viable edge 3 and whatever. But like, yeah, it is also possible Dallas Turner doesn't turn out, in which case I think you want to have as many bodies as possible. So I think either way, yeah. Bring back Jihad Ward. I actually didn't know that he finished 3rd in pressures on the team. Tied with Blake Cashman is a crazy addition to that stat. Yeah, I mean, do it. I don't want to be in a situation where you do it because he's edge 3. It's more you do it because like you don't know what your chances are, and it's not going to cost a lot to get this guy as an insurance policy.
Cam Akers, good with him as your RB2, or would you rather have a rookie as your RB2, Akers as your RB3?
I'd rather have a rookie as an RB2. I was probably wrong about Cam Akers coming in when the Vikings signed him again. or traded for him again, whatever. I was a lot less impressed with him, and then he played better than I expected. But I don't know that that's enough to be like running back 2. It was more like, hey, Ty Chandler's not getting it done. Here you go. And he was fine. So yeah, bring him back. I think that he knows he would be competing for a running back 3 spot. Or not competing for, it would be slotted into a running back 3 spot. Again, rookie's not a guarantee. So Ty Chandler's a really good example of that. So bring him back because you don't know if that rookie's going to do it. But yeah, I'm on that.
Do you recall when the Vikings made their big moves last year? Was it first day of tampering that they got Grenard? First day of tampering, they got Van Ginkel and Darnold. I'm trying to remember the timeline, exactly how they operated last year. I'm going to put you on that research project to at least get a date, even better, a timestamp, and see if we can figure out how Kwesi operates.
So what are we looking for exactly?
I'm curious how Kwesi operated last year on tampering day. Were Grenard and Van Ginkel tampering day signings?
Well, let's hope Twitter search works.
Twitter appears to be back functioning, at least on my browser. Jonathan Allen, as some people are now learning for the first time, and maybe they even tuned in late to this show, Jonathan Allen is visiting the Vikings. That's the only crumb that we have gotten today. And it's an exciting one. Jonathan Allen, I think, would be not count against the comp formula. Jonathan Allen probably going for about $15 million per year we've prognosticated.
All right, so tampering day was March 11th last year. Okay.
I feel like we got the Grenard news as it happened. Maybe on this very show. Maybe within the first hour. With less cap space, Kwesi was very aggressive last year. And maybe that's actually interesting to explore. Because with limited resources, you kind of have to pick your spots. And they knew what they wanted. They went and they got it. And they were very aggressive. So do you actually have more flexibility or more, you have the luxury of patience when you have as much cash as they do? I don't know. Is there some kind of backwards logic there?
That because you've got a lot of cash, you can be patient? I don't know, because like I think that you do want to you want to make sure that you get the most for your money, and being assertive about the best players that provide that kind of value, I think is a really important part of that. So I don't know that there is that kind of counterintuitive pressure, even knowing that you've got a number of options available to you, because you can't spend all that money on third, fourth tier free agents. Like you just won't be able to, fill out your roster, and you'll have a bunch of money left over essentially. So yeah, I don't know. That's like one thing to kind of keep in mind, is that, you've got only so many signings or only so many players that you can get a bunch of value adds on top of. But yeah, okay. I think, no, that's not a piece of breaking news. I'm looking for the Grenard breaking news from last year to try and get that timestamp. And it's getting tough, actually.
So NFL.com's report on that, March 11th, which was opening of tampering day, correct?
Yep. Yes.
1:18 p.m. a story was written and published.
11:44 a.m. from Adam Schefter.
So within the first hour.
Yeah, and honestly, those are the money deals. So the announcement of the signing, so that's Adam Schefter providing the contract details. So the announcement of the signing probably came earlier than that. So I will continue to be looking at that, but that was within the first hour that we got contract details. Also, Andrew Van Ginkel was on March 11th as well. That was later in the day. So it was like a really exciting 1-2. Obviously, we're not as excited as we needed to be about Van Ginkel. He exceeded, I think, all of our expectations. But yeah, let's see if I can get. I can just search from Adam Schefter. That's probably the best way to do it. Because I mean, even if he wasn't the one to break it.
Chat wants us to stay live until the Vikings make a move.
I saw that.
Tempting. We also have.
Is that interesting? Hey, Macho, I don't know if I trust you yet on that one. I'm going to take a look for it. Is that Rossini on Twitter that you're talking about, Macho?
I saw that. I saw that report. I can corroborate that.
Okay.
Milton Williams not done. Again, none of them are done because it's tampering. But
right, but it could be an Anthony Barr Jet situation.
Possibly. Milton Williams, again, Panthers, that's probably going to be a $20 million per year deal. Jonathan Allen in the building at TCO. I still think that Kwesi is in the meeting. I still think that that's what's pausing him, is that he is all out. He's giving Jonathan Allen the tour. He's like, check out our cryo chambers. Check out this weight room. Look at all the snow that's melted. We barely have any snow. Look at these gorgeous brown grass practice fields that will soon be green. Imagine yourself here. Imagine yourself a Minnesota Viking standing next to Harrison Phillips, standing next to Jonathan Bullard, standing 2 spots away from Andrew Van Ginkel. Have I painted a picture, Jonathan?
I painted a picture for you yet. Okay, so Ian Rappaport broke the news about Jonathan Grenard 5 minutes before the contract details came out. So we got contract details really quickly on Grenard, which is kind of cool. But 11:39 a.m. is when the news broke on NFL Twitter for Grenard to the Vikings. So cool. We got that. So that took much longer than where we're at right now. So I don't know, maybe, I mean, that's a little bit different. And again, it took a couple of hours for us to get from there to Van Ginkel. But yeah, Kwesi sometimes operates with some speed and sometimes he does not.
The further we get into the day, again, that could indicate that there was no under the table, like combine steakhouse agreement reached with a player going to the Vikings. Could mean that there's more legitimate negotiation going on today, which is what today is supposed to be about. We just assume that all the deals are in place and get reported within minutes. But there probably is some real negotiating happening. There's a lot of money in the league right now. The cap is skyrocketing. And there's a little bit of chess game with these agents wanting to wait and see the J.C. Horn deals of the world, reset markets.
It's still crazy, man. $25 million for guys, 37 total starts.
There's probably going to be a flood of deals once we see a couple dominoes fall. It's like in the draft, right? There's a run on defensive tackles. There's going to be a run on cornerbacks, which are a couple of pretty rich positions in free agency. And they all want to see how much money they can get.
For bingo purposes, I have a question.
Yes.
Jarrett Bailey on Blue Sky posted, too early hot take, the Bears will have a better record than the Lions this season. That sounds pretty close to the Bears won the offseason, I think. Do we get to count that? Again, I don't have that on my bingo board, so it doesn't help me to count it, but it feels like that counts.
Well, since we're the only two here, we get to be the jury on this. I got to see if I have it on mine. I don't think I do. So no, I don't want to count it. Here's my board. I won't read all 25 things, but I could use a restructure. I could use a Vikings FA signing with an NFC North rival. Now, unfortunately, Marcus Davenport doesn't count. I can't think of any logical options for that right now. Patriots winning the offseason, not according to Chad Graff. Change of scenery for a formerly hyped draft pick. That's coming. I mean, that's definitely
soon.
That's coming. Insider copy paste agent fed line. I think we established
we already got that one.
That's a hit. We'll keep the bingo cards updated on X if it's working. That is, as free agency progresses. 16 new posts. Let's see what's new.
Also, hey, hold on.
Yep.
So I've got Kirk Cousins' foot in mouth moment. Now, I don't know if you saw some of the posts yesterday, or was it 2 days ago, with Kirk Cousins, who took a picture with Donald Trump, which a lot of people, again, took exception to. Do we count that, A, because is that a foot and mouth moment at all anyway? Or B, it occurred 2 days ago, 1 day ago, but not today. And C, are foot and mouth moments only about the implications it has for the team? Or is it like, do PR hits just not count?
So let me put it this way. Maybe the photo wouldn't count, but the photo will lead to questions at his inevitable press conference where he will be forced to speak words.
Yeah.
So it's maybe a precursor for something.
It's a setup. Right. Yeah. So the setup doesn't have to pay off, but it's a setup. So we'll see if he steps on that rink.
Yeah. And we'll again have a liberal interpretation of what a foot and mouth moment is.
Sure.
Go ahead.
We're out on Vikings signing someone within 30 minutes of tampering open. So I don't have that anymore.
Yeah. Straight up eliminated. You're right.
Yeah.
Pelissero gets a big Viking scoop. Now, Pelissero, we didn't say it has to be a signing. Does Pelissero saying that Jonathan Allen is visiting, is that a big Pelissero scoop?
To me, that's not a scoop in the same way.
And we don't know who had it first because of the Twitter outage.
Yeah. So sorry, Pelissero, for technical difficulties. You don't get access to this one. I'm sure you will make up for it later.
Patriots signed Morgan Moses, tackle. Speaking of tackle, good signs on Christian Darrisaw's recovery. I still think they could use a high-end backup as insurance if he's not ready. And I'm not sure that Walter Rouse or David Questenberry are the guys. I've advocated for Cornelius Lucas, but somebody that can fill in for a month if needed. I think that's a priority, and I don't think it has to break the bank. That's probably not a tampering period signing, though.
Yeah, I think you got to wait on that. You don't have to wait, but you're likely to wait on that. But yeah, I think that, I mean, it is kind of frustrating, of course, that the Vikings haven't made a bunch of significant moves in the first half an hour. But we are getting a bunch of news on this tampering period. It feels like as time has gone on since they've instituted this tampering period, which is like 7 years now. It's been a while. They've become less and less active, right? Like I feel like the flurry of news, when it first happened, the flurry of news we got at 11 a.m. specifically was extraordinary. And then I think just like these last couple of years, the amount of news that we get, definitely, I think it's more of a trickle than anything else. Like we get a couple of big signings here, and this is just a bad free agency. I think a lot of teams just re-signed their big guys and took a bunch of good guys off the market right before the tampering period.
Again, if you had Milton Williams on your wish list, he's gone. If you had likely not done yet. If you had Drew Dahlman on your wish list,
it's not just not done yet. It's like not a sure thing. Like it's not. This isn't official yet. It's, hey, this might not be as solid as we thought it was.
That would be your top center in Dahlman, arguably, and if you include Odigizua in that too, who went back to the Cowboys. Top DT options gone. J.C. Horn with the top cornerback contract. So Kwesi is letting the top of the market settle.
Which he typically does, yeah.
Which is not, and again, Gernard was not top of the market. Gernard was probably considered.
I mean, Hunter was closer to the top of the market. Like Hunter signed for more, I think, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
he did. Van Ginkel, which again did happen day one of tampering. Van Ginkel was not. He was probably thought of as a second wave guy. Vikings went and got him. They had great conviction last year getting those two edge rushers. I think that I don't think there needs to be panic right now. I'm seeing a lot of wake up Kwesi posts. I don't think you need to be screaming about that. DJ Reed is going to the Lions. You can scream about that. This is just in. DJ Reed to the Lions. This is worthy of a breaking news sounder.
Yeah.
Because that is in division. Now that's a Carlton Davis replacement. Carlton Davis goes to the Patriots. They needed somebody. They bring in DJ Reed. Detroit, man. Now, those who think that Chicago's going to win more games than Detroit, you need to consider the fact that Detroit is due for much better injury luck this year.
I would think so. Yeah, I think that's a huge consideration.
Yeah.
Also, another bingo clarification. You said you saw some wake up Kwesi posts. Does that count as running laps around Kwesi?
I think it might.
All right.
Well, now that we've got two NFC North teams active today,
someone is gonna tweet something like that. So
undoubtedly,
yeah.
I mean, you could Twitter search that exact phrase, and I bet somebody out there has tweeted it. So again, your top cornerbacks going off the board. The terms 3 years, $48 million. We've been puzzled on this show as to why DJ Reed's market at 28 years old seemed more depressed from a dollars standpoint. 16 million per year, pretty reasonable. And that makes me wonder where Byron Murphy lands, because now we've got a $9 million range between the Horn value per year.
I mean, the structure might matter a lot. Like, it might be the case that a lot of Horn's money is like fake, like we talked about earlier in the stream, where a lot of it's in the fourth, maybe third year. It'll be restructured away. That maybe his cap is like, a bunch of people in.
Let's hit the sound for this. Hit me.
Former Eagles cornerback Isaiah Rodgers reached agreement on a 2-year, $15 million contract with the Minnesota Vikings. The deal includes $8 million fully guaranteed. That is from Adam Schefter and also his agents, because it said the deal was negotiated by Brian Gavin and Ed Wasilewski of EMG Sports, which is only ever included in the tweet when it's part of the copy paste.
So I think the Eagles completely have gutted their cornerbacks are all leaving. Bradbury, they cut. Slay, they cut. And Rodgers was a free agent. And I think everybody at one point tweeted, Vikings target. So Isaiah Rodgers, 27 years old. And this could be a Shaq Griffin replacement, because it's about that dollar value that you would have given.
Very cheap.
That you would have given Griffin. 27 years of age, 3 years with the Colts, missed 23. I'm guessing that's injury, Arif. Can you find why Rodgers missed the 23 season?
Yeah, sure.
Played with Philadelphia last year on what I would assume was a 1-year deal, unless it was like a 5th-year option that they traded. Gambling.
Yeah. Oh, I remember this. This is like a whole deal. Yeah. Because what was it, like 8 Colts got popped for gambling, and they released all of them but one.
So he signed. Yeah, so he had to sign a prove-it 1-year minimum deal with Philadelphia, and that clearly worked out pretty well for him. Now, Rodgers last year, production-wise, only 421 snaps. In the Super Bowl,
well, he wasn't a starter, right? Because it was like the 2 rookies were.
Yeah, and I assume this was spot duty. He did have 1, 2, 3 games over 50 snaps, another game with 43, 36, 36. So about a third of the games he played significant snaps. He had a really nice reception or completion percentage against, 50%, 85 passer rating against, only 1 penalty. Again, only 421 snaps last year. If you want to see him playing at in a big significant game, best example would be the divisional round against LA.
He had a really good game. He had a really good game against LA.
57 snaps in that game. Allowed 4 out of 9 completions, pretty good. I don't know why his grades are so bad.
His grades really bad now.
PFF, the numbers would not indicate that unless they're mad about 1 missed tackle.
Yeah, or it could have been like one of the incompletions was like a drop, right, which they grade negatively against the corner. I can take a look at that in a little bit more detail, but I find that interesting because I remember that game being very good for him.
As a Colt, prior to the gambling suspension, excellent. I mean, 2021, 22, excellent numbers. Career 85 passer rating against, and that's in over 1,400 snaps. 27 years old, 5'10", 170.
It
Gonna
says
look
he benefited from 2 drops in that game, so that's probably a part of the reason that grade was negative for him from a coverage perspective. He also allowed 2 long ones. 1 long one to Demarcus Robinson, and 1 long one to Cooper Kupp. So 48-yarder and a 30-yarder. But my recollection of that game is that he played pretty well. So I don't know.
In the snow, hard. Maybe a little hard to have, like, if we get a snow game at Lambeau late in the year, write this down. But at 5'10", 170, you might say, well, is he slot? Is he too undersized? No, he's a wide corner.
Yeah, he
plays on the outside. How big is Blackman? Is Mekhi Blackman, is that about Blackman's size too? Are the Vikings getting a little small at cornerback with this signing?
I think Blackman is 5'10". I'm going to double check that with the official combine measurements from him.
Okay.
Actually, he's 5'11". 5'11" flat. He's just 178 pounds.
Similar weight, similar height. Yeah. Now with Rodgers and Blackman. And Blackman also, an outside corner that held his own. This is interesting. I think this is interesting. Oh. I would still think there's one big cornerback signing to come. And are you reacting to the Milton Williams?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, so Yahtzee in chat mentioned that the Vikings might be in talks with him. I'm not confident about that. And he said, per Eagles beat reporter, chat, if you're going to do that, please tell me the name of the beat reporter so that we can do a better job confirming it. That's just us asking. So I don't know if that's the case. I want to make sure that we can. Right now, a bunch of the Vikings beat are, of course, talking about Isaiah Rodgers because that is the signing. Caden Steele, I've never heard of that person. So let's take a look at that. But yeah, I'm kind of curious about Isaiah Rodgers. Again, like you mentioned, previously NJ.com. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about the credibility of this person. So he's currently NJ.com, it says. I don't know about the credibility of this person. NJ.com tends to do pretty decent work. So fair enough. I would imagine it's kind of the Shaq Griffin role for Isaiah Rodgers, not just in terms of money, but also like, you could play on the outside. You might have to kick him inside at times just based on the composition of the rest of your cornerback group. But you are not necessarily hoping that he's your cornerback 3, right? You're signing him as a cornerback 4 in the hopes that if you do need a cornerback 3, you're in a much better spot than most teams are around the league. So yeah, I think I like the signing. I haven't watched a ton of Isaiah Rodgers, so I can't say with a ton of confidence that this is an outstanding signing or something like that. But really low amount of money, and so the initial reaction for me is positive.
Someone in the chat, not confirmed, saying $8 million guaranteed for Rodgers. Thank you, Mike. This is probably the type of deal that could be safely torn up after the first year if it doesn't work out. Isaiah Rodgers signing with Minnesota. That's the report from everybody on X. And that's probably, again, this is going to be one of those deals that counts like $5 million against the cap this year. We said this earlier, but if you assume some restructuring on O'Neal, on Hawkinson, the Vikings could end up with about $80 million to play with. They've committed about $10 million to this point on re-signing their own guys. This might be another $5 million going on the cap this year. Rodgers, 27 years old, and this is a classic Kwesi, Arif. Finding someone who's in their physical prime on a second contract, in this case a third, had a bridge year with Philadelphia, but trying to capitalize on someone at value. Someone who was not a full-time starter last year, but has a history of being a good player with the Colts, and then pretty decent last year with the Eagles.
Yeah, so Tyler Spence in chat says something I was actually about to point out too. So Alec Lewis actually has 2 tweets. One is recapping the Adam Schefter news, but it says at the bottom of that tweet about Isaiah Rodgers that Rodgers is part of the contingency plan regarding Byron Murphy Jr., it sounds like, that sounds unusual to me. And then the next tweet from Lewis is, Another potential cornerback name as part of what might happen with Byron Murphy Jr., Jeff Okudah. Now, I don't love either of those as potential, like to me, this is not one where if you fill your cornerback room with a bunch of pretty good guys, you end up with a great guy in the aggregate. Like, that's not how I view that. I don't even know if Okudah's there. So I don't know, unusual place to be if that's what the Vikings are feeding Lewis. I don't really super love that.
Okudah was traded. Was it before last season?
I think it was before last season, right? It was to the Falcons.
Before last season. 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Traded to Atlanta. Then
ended
missed
up with the Texans. Yeah.
He missed all of 2024, more or less. Played 48 snaps. Missed the rest of the year with Houston. That would be like he's competing for a 53-man spot. That would not be a plan. That would not be part of the plan. That'd be a Fabian Moreau. That would be filling out the room.
Yeah, I don't know why Alec connected Okudah to Murphy. Like, those are not. Glue K99, former first-round pick. I don't know if you mentioned that to suggest his value or to suggest the bingo card that we have that talks about former first-round picks reviving their career. Either way, I appreciate it.
I do just want to clean up. I said I was looking at Okudah's 2021. He played 79 snaps instead of 48. I was looking at his Lions stats from 21 when he got hurt. But again, last year, only 79 snaps for the Houston Texans.
Yeah. And not a spectacular grouping of 79 snaps, but 79. Yeah, so I don't know. The Vikings are seemingly making some pretty significant moves on the interior line and are not making our interior defensive line potentially, right? And are not making as many splash moves at cornerback. The Okudah signing is a very whatever one to me, potentially, which we don't know if that's happened. I don't want to suggest that that's happened. But if that happens, it would be very whatever. The Rodgers signing seems like a pretty good value, but that to me cannot be part of a definitive plan for him to be a starter, right? There's just not enough information on him as a player for us to be confident that he can, step in and be a starter right away.
So Reed goes for 16 per year. Rodgers in at 7.5 per year to the Vikings. I haven't heard a peep about Byron Murphy. And I haven't heard one report linking him to anybody today. Have you? I don't think I've seen anything on Murphy. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, not connecting him to a single team yet. I don't know. Maybe that's just how his agency operates, right? That they don't drop that out there. Like, it's different for every agency. Some agencies want to drum up the player value by identifying as many teams as possible that they've had talks with, and other agencies would prefer to kind of keep those conversations in house and not litigate contract in public or anything like that. I don't know. Kind of curious. Hoopstock69 in the chat says Murphy rumors to Raiders. I haven't seen that. I don't know where that is. It wouldn't shock me or anything like that. I would just like to know where we found that.
The Raiders have been pretty quiet.
They've had an interesting offseason. Yeah, not today. They've not done anything today. They've had a very intriguing offseason for sure.
Thank you, Chance.
Are you gonna take Chance up?
Someone thought my TurboTax read was like "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." They thought it was like me doing a Christmas Carol reading. Have there been any guard signings? Ask. Yes, there have. Not to the Vikings, but Evan Brown did sign with the Cardinals again.
I know this doesn't really count in the spirit of what you asked about Bannon. If that's, I don't know how to pronounce your name. But technically, Trey Smith did sign the franchise tag today. So that, if that counts, he was not going to go anywhere, but that's a signing.
So we've got some movement. The Vikings have signed Isaiah Rodgers. This would somewhat fulfill an empty cornerback room. Let's not forget the pickle they're in. They lose, potentially, Griffin, Gilmore, and Murphy. Possibly all three gone. Mekhi Blackman off an ACL. You're rebuilding that room. So it doesn't matter the order in which you rebuild it. You can get the mid-price guy. You can get the expensive guy later today or tomorrow. You can bring the rookie in. You need bodies. You need to fill that room with warm bodies. And I can't appreciate that Isaiah Rodgers signs for a multi-year contract because they've been surviving on one-year deals, going year to year with Patrick Peterson, 1 year of Gilmore just before camp, right? And they knew this. They kind of knew what they were doing. Now, they didn't know that Mekhi Blackmon would tear up his knee, and most unfortunate thing of all, they didn't know what was going to happen with Kyrie Jackson. So that's why they are in this situation. But a 2-year deal for Rodgers gives you a little bit of, okay, the 2-year time horizon that Kwesi talks about. Ton of cap space this year, ton of cap space next year. There's no reason why they need to go year to year anymore at corner. So I would hope that the cornerback group we see this year is also the group that we can count on seeing next year as well, when Blackmon is still under that rookie deal, and maybe one highly priced long-term contract still to come today. Still plenty of names out there. I don't think any position group has exhausted all of its options yet. Some of the top guys are gone. That's fine. That's fine. Let Kwesi cook with the second wave. I'm good with that.
Yeah, it just kind of sucks for the stream, right? like, yeah, no, it's really good team building. But what are we going to talk about? Okay, so Ollie Haynes says that Rodgers can also kick return and be the odd punt returner. I'm kind of curious about that. I was also going to ask you, Sam. Rodgers in week 16 of 2022 was put on season-ending IR for a knee injury. I don't think that counts as Vikings signed player with injury history, but I would like your feedback on that.
And the gambling suspension probably doesn't count as injury history.
I would say that it does not. Yeah, but something to keep in mind.
In case anyone is concerned about this, I think I did see a couple of people asking about this. The sanctioned gambling apps just simply do not work in the state of Minnesota. So that would hopefully, reduce any concern you might have about that particular problem. Twitter down again, I'm seeing possibly.
Yeah, I guess I want to know, how good is Isaiah Rodgers at manipulating VPNs? I'm curious.
Spoken like a man who's done that before, Arif.
I would never.
I'll have to dig into Isaiah Rodgers punt or kick return numbers. You asked me a question, Arif, and I've totally forgotten what it was.
It was about whether it counts towards injury history. I think.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the kick and punt return history for Rodgers. So he's got 3 career punt returns for 25 yards, 8.3 yards per return. That's not bad, but obviously it's only 3. But the kick returns, he's had a lot. He's at 69. Nice. Career kick returns. Pretty reasonable yards per return average. Obviously difficult to fully figure it out, comparing him to historical averages, because a 28.1 yards per kick return last year is a lot different than the 28.8 he had in 2020. There were different kick return rules. But hey, I think that's something to keep in mind. Not the primary reason I think that they probably signed him, but it's nice that you have that.
The kick returning skill set, I guess, is more common than the punt returning skill set, of which he does not have enough I would not call him a punt returner. He's done three attempts.
It seems like this is the kind of guy that, hey, if your punt returner goes down in game and your backup punt returner is on the practice squad, you didn't call him up, then, we'll put him in the game instead, and he can be the backup punt returner. That's what it seems like to me. He's not a bad guy to have, but not part of any planning.
Twitter down. We're going to get to the 2-hour mark on the stream, and then we'll allow you to go about your days. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll be with you for another few minutes here. Again, to review, nothing on Darnold. Very quiet on the Darnold front. I think that with
the
Rodgers,
closest we got was that Jerry Dulac at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reported that the Steelers are very close to signing with Sam Darnold. Unfortunately, we've not seen any corroboration on that, which
With Darnold, you say, not Rodgers. Darnold.
Sorry, Rodgers. No, you're right. You're right.
Oh, okay. Okay.
My bad.
Yep.
I'm bad at this.
Raiders have their guy. I thought that the Raiders were the landing spot for Darnold. Pete Carroll couldn't resist Geno Smith. He can't quit him. So Smith to the Raiders, Rodgers maybe to the Steelers, Seahawks wide open possibly for Darnold.
Yeah.
Bad dad joke wondering if KJ Osborne would be a fit. Would love it. I would love it. Now he cannot return punts. We've seen it.
We've got a good history of that not working.
Brett also
says that Dulac deleted the Rodgers tweet. All right.
Well, Elon deleted all of Twitter, so it's all gone. We can't corroborate that. Diggs can. Diggs, do you remember this, Arif? In Diggs' first or second, maybe both preseasons, how electrifying he was as a punt returner?
He was outstanding.
I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna find Stefon Diggs preseason numbers.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable.
I remember in rookie camp. Remember when Master Tesfatsion was covering the team?
Oh yeah.
I remember in rookie camp, Master had this like video from like high up of Diggs returning a punt, and it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Again, it's rookie camp, you can't tackle or whatever, but like it was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. It looked like, and you have to understand that this is remarkably high praise for me. It looked like Percy Harvin. And and a bunch of people responded to Master with like, well, it's it's not just training camp, it's like rookie camp. It's fake. And Master was like, I don't care, it's fun. And it's like, yeah, that's probably the right attitude. But yeah, I don't know that Diggs will ever want to return punts, because I feel like if he wanted to, he would. But yeah, Diggs can. Get him in the building. Bring him back.
2015 Hall of Fame game. Stefon Diggs. Yeah. In his first preseason game, Stefon Diggs, 62-yard punt return against Pittsburgh. Second game against Tampa Bay. Yet the Vikings are quiet, folks. We're going through Stefon Diggs game logs from 2015. Darn right we are. 37-yard punt return in his second preseason game. I'm glad I remembered this properly.
Well, do you remember Adam Thielen was also like a crazy good punt returner in his preseasons too?
And right? He did it didn't he do it for the team in the regular season in 2016 before he was really established? And remember, he had a key fumble that lost them the game. I think that was a punt return against Dallas.
Yeah, he has 3 career punt returns, 2 in 2014, kick returns. So he has 6 career punt returns, all of them in 2016, which I assume like that's where his 2016 fumble comes from. Yeah, he has 2 fumbles in 2016. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was crazy. That like both the highlight receivers that composed it for a brief moment the best wide receiver duo in the league had these crazy preseason punt returns, and then it was just like, yeah, but we got Marcus Sherrill, so we are good.
So Stefon Diggs had a punt return of 23 yards or more in every single 5 preseason games that year. Like that's crazy productivity in a punt return setting where 10-yard returns are good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sold.
We were embarrassed with riches in 2015 for punt returners. And now look at us. Poor beyond belief.
I didn't think Brandon Powell was that bad. He was not great. He was not that bad. He could catch the ball. Jalen Naylor, could not catch the ball. Brandon Powell, a little more reliable in that regard.
Josina Anderson says that Najee Harris has began to say goodbyes to Steeler teammates. So he's available.
Wouldn't touch him with a 39.5-foot pole.
Okay. I don't like him. That's a little strong.
9.5-foot pole. How's that?
Sure. I don't think his market's going to be very good. I think he thinks his market's going to be better than it is. And in that context, I'd be fine adding him as like a third running back. But like, yeah, he's not good.
Alec Lewis says the Jonathan Allen visit happening in a couple hours. Pretty awkward if they sign Milton Williams before then, unless they're going to do both.
Well, I mean, it would make sense with their ability to at least contact Milton Williams. Be like, whoa, 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 whoa. You don't want to sign with the Panthers. Have you seen them?
Stay away.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I heard someone told me you were signing with the Panthers. I did not know that you were in such a state. Hey, have you looked at our report card recently?
That's just on like the front door of the facility.
You're right. Just nailed it.
All right, last one, Arif. If the Vikings were to go all in on one position, sign multiple high-end guys in the next 24 hours, what position would you want them to do that at?
Well, the funniest answer is quarterback. What position do I think that they could be in on that they could realistically do, especially now that the top end of the cornerback market has completely like drained from this consideration? I mean, I think it would have to be defensive tackle. I can't think like you could technically sign quote unquote multiple high end guards, maybe. I don't know, but I don't know. There's a lot of tackles on the market. And so you could oh my God, sorry. The chat's going wild because the Lions have DJ Reed and DJ Reader, and now they need DJ Reed-est. I mentioned Pokemon evolutions earlier in the stream. I think that's what that is. So, but like, no, to answer your question, Sam, I think it has to be defensive tackle because I don't see another area of need where they can fit in multiple players that would qualify as high end. Technically, you could do it at safety, right? They could sign Talanoa Hufanga, who is not signed with anyone yet. The closest we got is the Albright tidbit that the Broncos are in on him. In like Javon Holland, right? Like those are the two high-end signings that you could potentially do, but like that seems unlikely. So it has to be defensive tackle because I don't think there's enough guards for us to say there's multiple guards. The cornerback market has completely, tanked in terms of who's available. That seems to be the first area to go in this year's free agency. Where else would you sign multiple guys? Wide receiver? I don't think they want to sign a high-end wide receiver.
Yeah. Yep, I'm with you. Well analyzed. Great stream. That was fun. Thanks all for the myriad comments, the snark, and also the breaking news. We actually really relied on you today with Twitter being down. So we appreciate that a lot. You can find the audio of this show on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed. Luke Braun's going to be all over the news. He'll have coverage today, tomorrow, Wednesday. We'll be back with the full group, hopefully on Thursday, to react to the official start of free agency. Our Care 11 show with Julia Daniels, Reggie Wilson, that's on Wednesday as well. For Arif Hasan, check out his Substack, Wide Left. And I'm Sam Ekstrom. One more sound for the road. Yahtzee, you better believe it. Tampering, baby. Thanks a lot for watching the Minnesota Football Party.